What is up, Sports Geeks? It's your host, Josh, here back with another College Hoops episode. Super Bowl was yesterday, and it was a blowout. So you know what time it is now. It's time to crank in the college basketball. It is College Hoops time. It is February. Coming up is March Madness right around the corner. And we are getting the top 16 teams released to us from who's releasing it this weekend, Nick?
The CBS, they have the coverage of it, but it's actually the committee, like the main
Okay.
chair of the March Madness committee is going to release the top 16, and we'll put them actually in their respective locations. So you'll
Okay.
actually get to see, if for you Michigan State, you'll get to see, who's their 1, 2, or if they're the 2, who's their 3, 4. So
Yeah, absolutely. So so we're here with our top 16 seeds today. So Nick has his, I have mine. They're a little bit different, but very, very similar. But
yeah,
there are some differences in here. So we'll talk through those here. But we'll go ahead and get started. Real quick, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It's free, it's easy, helps the channel out, lets us know you guys like this college hoops content coming at you every single week. So we'll go ahead and hop into it. My top four seeds, all obviously these are the 4-1 seeds. And in order here, I have number one Auburn, Bama at number 2. I have Florida at number 3, and I have Duke at number 4. So those are my top 4 seeds. We'll hear yours, and then we'll dive into those.
Yeah, so my top four in order from 1 to 4 is Auburn. Then we got Alabama. Then we got Tennessee, and then we got Duke rounding it out as the last 1 seed.
Okay, so we have 3 of the 4 that are the same. You have Tennessee. I have Florida. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that one there.
Yeah, so for me, it basically came down to the fact that Tennessee is undefeated in quadrant 2 to 4. So is Florida, but for me, it really came down to the quad one. When
Mm,
I'm looking at quad one right now for Tennessee, they're 8-4, and then you look at Florida, they're 4-3. And I think we talked about it earlier with this Florida team. They're a great team. Don't get me wrong; they're a really
mhm.
good team. But in the past month, we've kind of seen them start to slip a little bit. They struggle to score the ball. We saw that against Tennessee when Tennessee beat them by 30.
Yeah,
Um, my biggest issue with Florida is they need to get some more quad one wins.
yeah,
They haven't proven to me yet that they are completely ready to be a 1 seed in this tournament. But I think that all this takes is them getting 2 or 3 wins down the stretch, and you get up to 6 or 7 quad one wins, and I think that could easily propel them with a long tournament run in the SEC tournament to an actual 1 seed. So that
yeah.
was kind of my look at that and why I put Tennessee in as a 1 seed over Florida.
Yeah. No, and that one was difficult for me because like I knew I wanted Duke as my 4th 1 seed, right? And so
Yep.
I have these
Yep.
2 SEC teams similar to you, 2 SEC teams fighting for this 3rd overall 1 seed because I think they're both over Duke, but I don't think they both get over Duke. I don't think we see
Yeah.
4. I don't care how clear it is. I don't think we see 4 SEC teams get the 1 seeds, right? So
Yep.
I just don't think it happens. And so I'm looking at this, and I know Tennessee obviously walloped Florida, but then I look back and I think, well, Florida walloped Tennessee, right? So
Yep.
you traded, right? I'm not going to look into that loss too much, but the win over Auburn was so, so crucial to me without Elijah Martin. And that's the thing that just stays in my mind is I think about like what they were able to do without your second leading scorer to the clearly. I mean, they're coming off of a loss and they're both, ours still both, the number one on our lists here. They're still the number one in the AP poll coming off of a
Yep.
loss. There's a reason, right? They are a spectacular team. This Auburn team is,
Yeah.
and you just went on the road and beat them, right? Like without your second leading scorer. When I saw that Elijah Martin was out, I thought it was going to be a blowout, to be honest. Not blowout, but 15, 20-point game. And the rebounding ability that Florida has was so, so clear to me. Condon, there's so many different ways you could pronounce it. Condon, something like that, I think. Spectacular rebounder. He had a huge step up. Obviously, we don't need to talk about Walter Clayton Jr. He is, uber talented, coming off of a first team All SEC last year. So he's going to do the same thing this year. Might be a first team All American this year. I love this Florida team, and I think that overall their rebounding ability and their top 10 in offensive and defensive efficiency. And I'm looking at teams here that can say that they are both, and it is I'm looking at this here, Florida and Duke. And those are the only two teams that can say
Yep.
that they're top 10 offensive and defensive. And both of those teams also happen to be top 10 in rebounding percentage too. I don't take total rebounds per game into account because a team like Alabama, who gets 78% possessions a game, is going to have more rebounds than a team like St. John's, right? Whereas realistically, St. John's is probably the better rebounding team. So
Yeah.
that I know that's a long rant just to say that I had Florida over Tennessee, but I mind you, that was one of, if not the closest race in this, in the dividing factors for me.
I mean, yeah, it really, like I said, it really does come down to you at this point. You got to think the same way the committee does, and not as somebody who sees them beat a team by 30. Because for the committee, it really comes down to, all right, what's their strength of schedule, strength of record,
Mm-hmm.
what do their quad 1 and 2 look like,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully they don't have any bad quad 3 or 4 losses, which neither of these teams do. But then you look at Tennessee's quad 1, they're 8-4. Their strength of record or strength of schedule is 12. And then you go and you look at Florida, they're 4-3 in quad 1, and their strength of schedule is 38. So if you look at if we're acting like the committee, which I really don't like doing, because I think we all as basketball fans view it in a different light.
Yes.
But that's the way they love to look at it, and they love to look at it as like, well, I mean, look, this Tennessee team's played a harder schedule, and they have 4 more quad 1 wins.
Yes.
So I mean, but no, I completely agree with you. I think Florida has a very, very good chance of, getting their way or backdooring their way into a 1 seed. And I completely agree with you. There's no way that when we get to Selection Sunday, the top 4 seeds are all SEC. It won't happen. It
Yeah.
won't happen.
Well, the thing is one of those 4 teams, more than likely, is going to miss out on the conference semis.
Yes.
Whereas
Yes.
Duke is going to win the ACC pending something crazy.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if Duke doesn't win the ACC, St. John's is going to win the Big East, or Houston's going to win the Big 12. Right. And so you're going to get one of those 2 seeds win their conference, and one of the top 4 SEC teams probably get knocked out in the quarterfinals. And that alone is going to provide enough recency bias in which the committee's not going to throw them in as a 1 seed. So,
yeah, I agree with that, because if you look at, Duke's resume, I mean, they're 5-3, they're number 2 in the net, but you go look at their strength of schedule, they're 47.
mm-hmm.
They don't have a tough schedule at all. But like you said, if they just keep winning, they keep winning, the committee is going to see that, they have enough quad 1 wins, they're good enough on offensive and defensive efficiency that they're going to give them one of those top 4 seeds.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that that Duke can say that only other team that can say that is Florida is we beat Auburn. So, when you're talking about the strength of schedule, there's a lot of things that factor into that. But when you can say we beat the number 1 overall seed, and depending on how this works, there's probably only going to be 3 or 4 teams that can say that.
Yeah.
By the end of the year, maximum 3 or 4, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be very, very valuable. So that's enough said. So clearly, you have Florida as your 5 seed. I have Tennessee as my 5 seed. We've talked enough about them. We don't need to go into them. My 6, 7, 8 is St. John's at the 6, which is very high for them, and I am well aware of that. And I will,
which I don't hate. I don't hate that at all.
I will defend that with my life.
Yep.
Houston as the 7 and Purdue as the 8. So who are your 6, 7, 8 here?
So my 6, 7, 8 is A&M as the 6. I got Houston as the 7, and then I got Purdue bumping their way up based on how they've played the past month and a half up to the last 2 seed and number 8.
Okay. Yep. I mean, I don't mind it. I mean, to start with the elephant in the room in St. John's. I think that for me, you look at, what's the committee going to be looking at, right? And there's certain things, and I think it gets divided up into the quad 1, quad 2, the quad 3, quad 4, right?
Yep.
All these teams that we're talking about, you pretty much, I mean, certainly the top 8 seeds, I mean, but really in the 9 through 16 range as well, you pretty much have to be perfect in the quad 3, 4, right? If you have quad 3, 4 slip ups, you better have a damn good quad 1, quad 2 record to make up for that, right?
Yep. Exactly.
I mean, 1 quad 3, quad 4 loss is equivalent to, can be outweighed by like 2 quad 1 wins. So, I think that comes into play. But both, I mean, so St. John's undefeated in quad 3, quad 4. Okay, you check the first quadrant. Quad 2, they're also undefeated, which to me, I think is very important. And the other thing I look at in this quad 2 for them is you beat a team like Kansas State. right? You beat a team
Yep.
like Villanova. You beat a team like Xavier, right? All of those wins are quad 2 wins. Xavier beat Marquette and UConn. Kansas State
Yeah.
has beaten Iowa State and Kansas, right? Like the
Yep.
teams that you are beating, yes, they're quad 2 games, but you are beating teams that have upset teams all season, right?
Yeah.
So to me, those quad 2 wins are very, very important. And then you look at the quad 3, right? You have the neutral floor site against Baylor by 1 point. We've talked about this plenty. 3 losses by a total of 5 points.
Yeah.
Okay. To me, 3 losses by a total of 5 points means that you have dominated or pretty much dominated the entire season because you have not played in a game in which you are not in, right? Every single game with a minute left, you are in the game.
Yep.
Like your bench players have never stepped onto the court in a losing game this
Yeah.
season. Like that alone. And then I look at the quad 1, quad 2, you're 9-3 in quad 1, quad 2. I think that's good enough for me. I also think that what they've done in the last week of beating Marquette and UConn, to me, just says, look, we are clearly a top 7, 8 team in the nation. And to me, I'm going to throw them up there at 6.
Yeah. I think when we talked about them last week, we both said this is a team that has everything in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, right now they are sitting at 11-1 in conference play. They're in first. This is a team that is each game they just continue to find their stride, and they do it even better, even better, and even better the next time they hit the floor. And the only thing that kept me from giving them that 2 seed line was just the sheer fact that they're 3-3 in quad 1. But
Yep.
they have so many more opportunities left to get more quad 1 wins.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a very high chance that St. John's team could get to 6 quad 1 wins, finish 6-3 in quad 1. And you come to Selection Sunday, if they make a good enough run in this Big East tournament, they don't even have to win it. Let's say they get to the semis or they make it to the finals and they lose a close one. They still have a legitimate case to be that last 2 seed or possibly the first 3 seed.
Mm-hmm.
And either way, I think this is a team. When we get to March and we get to Sunday, it's going to be the 2 to 3 seed line, and it's going to be hard to move them off that because especially the way they're playing right now.
Yeah, my final point here too about I guess I got a couple final points about it. One, the UConn at home and Creighton at home have both been moved to quad 2 at the moment.
Okay.
Those are coming up. I fully expect those to be quad 1s by the end of the season. Those will be quad 1s. Both teams are going to win enough games that they're going to end up as quad 1s. But as of right now, you only have 2 quad 1s. Realistically, you have 4, right? But four quad 1 games remaining, more than likely. And I look at the game against UConn on Friday, and you are down 26-11 to start the game on the road. And I'm watching the game, and I'm sitting here saying, I think St. John's is still going to win this game. Like, they're getting wide open threes every single possession. And it's not like a wide open 3 like UConn saying, oh, you guys shoot 27% from 3 as a team. We're going to let you shoot threes. It's like, no, we're in transition. We're hitting a guy that's wide open for 3. Like, he can sit there, check the win, and then shoot the 3, right?
Yeah.
Not like I'm just closing out a little bit short to you.
Mm-hmm.
And you did that the entire time. UConn is lights out. They're hitting everything. They're hitting circus shots, solo balls, hitting circus shots. He's hitting left-handed floaters over the backboard going in, right? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, hey, Rick Pitino's going to rip our ass as a new one. Next thing you know, oh yeah, no, we're going to hold them to 62 after they scored 26 points in the first 7 minutes of the game. Right? So quick maths there, 33 minutes, you scored what? 36 points?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the defense that I think is going to elevate. I also think that this team, when it comes around to March, I know we're talking about like Duke might win. Duke's more likely to win the ACC. You're right. Houston's more likely going to win the Big 12, depending on maybe Iowa State gets in there too.
Yeah.
I think that this St. John's team is going to, I don't want to say coast because coast is a strong word. I think they're going to comfortably win the Big East because you can't try and tell me that on day 2 or day 3 or day 4 of playing a game every single day, any team, Marquette, UConn, Xavier, Creighton, I don't care who it is going to have the legs and the energy to go play against the defense that St. John's puts out there every single game. And I just think that St. John's plays so physical that I trust them. So and
they're playing on their home court. They're basically playing on their home court,
right?
Which still blows my mind that I mean, I get you're never going to take away the Big East tournament from Madison Square Garden. You're never
Right.
you can't. And if they did, that would be the biggest mess up they ever had. But
Mhm.
I mean, if you're St. John's and you got this good of a team, you play enough games at MSG. I swear they've already had like 2 or 3 games like left in the regular season that they're getting switched to play at MSG.
Mhm.
So I mean, like you said, you got a 4-day tournament run. I mean, and you're playing basically at your home away from home.
Yeah.
It lines up very, very well for Rick Pitino and St. John's.
Yeah, no, I would agree. But let's touch on some other teams here because I think there's a lot of other teams to talk about here. So let's talk about Houston really quickly. They are 9-4, quad one, quad two, obviously perfect in quad three, quad four.
Yep.
I do think the loss to San Diego State is one that's going to hurt them come Selection Sunday.
Yeah.
Not that San Diego State's a bad team by any means, but I just think that's a game that on a neutral court you have to win
Yeah.
if you're Houston, if you want to elevate yourself into that 1 seed conversation, unless you're going to go win the Big 12. I mean, I think for a lot of these 2s and 3s, to say it one more time, if any of these 2s and 3s, even like Michigan State, goes and wins the Big 10 tournament, right? You are going to elevate yourself at least
Yep.
one seed higher. If not, if you're a 3, maybe 2 seeds higher. So
Yeah.
I think that's one thing to hit on here. But I want to hear your thoughts on this Houston team.
From the start of the beginning of the year, I've been really, really high on this Houston team. And that
Mhm.
might be a problem. It might be a problem because we know what Houston's MO is. We know what their identity is. It's defense, defense, defense. Um, this Houston team all year has really struggled to score. Um, they've also dealt with a lot of injuries. But you look at it, they're another team like we're bringing up, just like St. John's. They're only 4-3 in quad one. And like
Yep.
you said, they have that quad two loss to San Diego State. And San Diego State's going to struggle to make the tournament. There's a
Yeah.
chance right now that San Diego State's they're going to have to win the Mountain West to get in because
Mhm.
New Mexico and Utah State are in an absolute dogfight for that outright lead and winning that conference. And I don't see the Mountain West getting more than 3 teams in.
Right.
And are you gonna be the third team, or is Boise State gonna be the third team
Yep.
that gets
Yep.
in from that conference? But no, I couldn't agree more with you. I mean, you look at it, like you said, they're 9-4 in quad 1 and 2. That's not great. You would expect more out of them,
Mhm.
but they're also another team that's got a lot of opportunities ahead of them. Like tonight, they play at home. They got it against Baylor. It's going to be a quad 2, but it's another quad 2 win, especially if you win by 10 plus that you can hang your hat on.
Mhm.
I mean, there's 3 in the net right now. Their strength of schedule is not great. It's 49. Their non-conference strength of schedule was only 70. I think they're another team, just kind of like how Duke is. If they keep winning, they keep winning, they keep winning. We catch them in the semis or the finals of the Big 12 tournament. They're going against, let's say, I don't know, Arizona or Iowa State if they're on the other side, and they only have 5 losses by that point. I think that's a team that if they win that, they could hop themselves on a seed line. But
Mhm.
I think they're going to stay at a 2. But they could drop to a 3. They very well could drop to a 3, but I think they'll be a 2. Now, where in the 2 line are they going to be? I think probably more towards the back. I think they'll probably be more 7 or 8. At worst, I think at worst, um, we would see them seeded as like the second 3 seed. I think
Mhm.
that's at worst. But if they get healthy, I think they'll be fine. Right now, Sharp's not playing; he's hurt.
Mhm.
So they get him healthy. I have no problem with this Houston team. I think Kelvin Sampson will have them geared up and ready to go by the end of the year, and they'll be a pretty scary 2 or 3 seed.
Yeah, I think my other thing about Houston too is that you have, I mean, of your remaining games, you have one that's a quad 2 home against Cincinnati, which Cincinnati strung together a couple wins. Maybe that ends up being a quad 1. I doubt it, but maybe.
Yeah,
Every other game is quad 1
yep,
opportunity right now. So we're talking, St. John's is 3-3 in quad 1 right now. Right. And they don't have a quad 2 loss. So that's where St. John's has a little bit of a leg up here on Houston. But
yeah,
St. John's is 3-3 with 4 quad 1 opportunities. Houston is 4-3 with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 quad 1 opportunities left. So you look at the opportunities now. Opportunities to advance, yes, 7 quad 1 opportunities is a difficult schedule to go about. So to say we're not going to lose any, if you're going to go 6-1 in quad 1, I'd rather have 4-0 in quad 1 than 6-1.
yep,
And 0 quad 2 losses. So I think that's one thing to monitor there is the opportunities are there, but it's also just a grueling schedule. And I think my last point on Houston here is that you look at their losses. I know you talked about the the non-conference, and the non-conference I think is being a little bit skewed by playing the 286th team in Jackson State, 316th team in Louisiana,
Yeah.
205th team in Hofstra, right? Like that's skewing that a lot because you did play Auburn and Alabama. And
Yeah.
so 2 of your 4 losses are to the number 1 and number 2 teams in the AP poll right now. That's very impressive to me,
Yeah.
right? And
Yep.
then you have the loss to Texas Tech, which is one that you should not have lost, right? You're
Yeah,
winning
that
the
was a
game,
brutal loss.
the brutal loss, absolutely. And then the San Diego State one earlier, right? So I think that this Houston team, in all honesty, is on the verge of really breaking out, right? Like, I look at the quality of defense that they play.
Yep.
Talked about a lot of it, like with St. John's and the ability to go force UConn into 18 turnovers. This Houston team can do that and more. It is very clear the 3 best defensive teams in the nation are Houston, Tennessee, and St. John's, and there's a reason
Yes.
why all 3 of them, at least on mine, are 1 or 2 seeds. I have a feeling St. John's is probably going to come in as a pretty early 3 seed for you.
Yeah. No, I mean, St. John's was right on my bubble of what I wanted to be with it. Right. The only thing that was holding me back from making them a 2 or even a really, really high 3, like right in that 8-9 was I was just looking at their quad 1. They're only 3
And
and
that's
3.
completely understandable. Yeah, I think they
And
might be a team that I maybe elevated a little bit high just because I'm
but
high on them as a
I think
basketball
they
team and
deserve it.
maybe not as a committee team, right? Like
Yeah.
I think you have a good point there of being 3 and 3 in quad 1 will definitely hurt them from the committee's perspective.
But yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I really, really love this team. I think Rick Pitino went out and did a great job in the portal. Went and got his kind of guys, guys that are willing to take his coaching and his criticism and really lock down and play that tough style of basketball, which is St. John's basketball. It is New York basketball. But no, I think they have, like you said, they have 4 opportunities ahead of them. They win them, even if they go 3-1. I think if they get to 6 quad 1 wins, and then you go on that run of that tournament, I think that's when I'll be ready to put them on that 2 line, because at that point, in the committee's eyes, they will have earned it.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. So let's move into our 3s here. So, well, real quick, let's talk about Purdue. Let's talk about
One of the
old,
hottest teams in college basketball.
yes, one of the hottest teams in college basketball with a massive game tomorrow night at Michigan.
Yep.
And let's not forget what they did to Michigan at home. It was
by
a
27
beat down, and it was 27-point game. It was a 30-point game about 10 minutes into the game. So they played 3 quarters of that game with it between 20 and 30 points or more. So there's going to be a lot of bad blood here. I think that this Michigan team is certainly out for some revenge, as they should be. But I mean, this Purdue Boilermakers team right now, the way that they're playing, Trey Kaufman-Renn, obviously a spectacular force inside. Not the typical Purdue big, the 7'3" guy was not a very highly recruited guy, but turns out to be spectacular, right?
Yep.
He's not that, right? He's a 6 foot, 6'10", really, really physical, great positioning, and very, very skilled around the rim. And obviously Braden Smith is the quarterback of this team that gets everybody in the correct positions, scores when he needs to, is great defensively, and it is a spectacular facilitator. So this Purdue team is very, very hot right now. I do think that similar to what I said about Michigan State earlier, if they win the Big Ten, they could jump up. If Purdue continues to play the way that they're playing and wins the Big Ten regular season championship and conference championship,
It could be that
tournament championship, I
could be
could
that
see them
4th 1
jumping.
seed.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, look, they've only lost 1 game since Christmas, and that was a 3-point loss to Ohio State, and that game was a dogfight. Like that's the thing with Ohio State, and like Ohio State's team, you don't know what you're going to get.
Right.
Ohio State has the athleticism and the talent to be a top 25 basketball team. They can just never consistently string it together, and I think we've seen that all year, and we've talked about it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not a horrible loss for Purdue. But I mean, they've had 1 loss in almost 2 months. Like they're one of the hottest teams in college basketball right now. And you look at their upcoming schedule; it's not easy to say the least. It is not easy to say the least. They go at Michigan, Then they have Wisconsin at home. Then they go to your Spartans.
Mhm.
Then they have at Indiana, home versus UCLA, home versus Rutgers, and then they finish off the year at Illinois. And at this rate, the way Illinois is playing ball, that game could mean a lot to them.
Oh,
That
yeah.
game could mean a lot to them. That could be a huge quad one win for Illinois because, as we know, they've started to slip a little bit. They're no longer ranked in the top 25.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, this is not an easy end of the year schedule for Purdue, but if Purdue can somehow get through this unscathed with maybe one or two losses, I mean, you're looking at a team that, like you said, if they run the table in the Big Ten tournament, they could fight for a one seed.
Yeah. I mean, well, the real quick about that Ohio State game too. When you lose to Ohio State, Micah Parrish catches fire at the end of that
Yeah.
game and hits like 4 threes in a row that are all heavily contested, right?
Yep.
And I'm not going to sit here and justify I'm not going to justify the loss, right? Because
Ohio State's
you
known
are,
to do that, though.
I mean,
They're known to do that. They did it
right.
against Maryland
Yeah, they did do it against Maryland.
last week.
Yeah, it was just Bruce Thornton instead of Micah
Yeah, he
Parrish, right?
scored 9 points in like 2 minutes.
Yeah, but
Crazy.
and if you're gonna go through and justify each loss like that, you could do that for every team, right? You could say,
Yeah,
"Oh,
exactly.
well, look,
Exactly.
Houston or Kansas, when you're playing Houston, you should have won that game twice, right?" But you can do that for nearly every game, right?
Yep.
So, but I am just saying that Purdue losing that game, it's not like they came out and they played like Michigan did when they played at Purdue, right? And
Exactly.
just got pummeled.
Yeah, and
No,
they
they
were
should.
in it the whole time.
Yes, they should have won the game. So,
Yeah.
no, I think it'll be really interesting to see what they do tomorrow against Michigan and what they do really in the next 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Michigan, Wisconsin, Michigan State. Big stretch of 3 games, and then obviously the rest of the season as well. All right, we're getting a little long-winded here. Let's move into our 11 or our 9 through 16. I'll go ahead and just give you all of my 9 through 16s, and we'll talk about all of them here. So,
Alrighty.
number 9, I have Iowa State. Number 10, I have Texas A&M. Number 11, I have Michigan State. Number 12, I have Arizona, right? I will say realistically probably Arizona over Michigan State, but I'm a Michigan State fan. I have the Tom Izzo signed piece of hardwood right there. Give me a break. And then I have Texas Tech, Kentucky, Memphis, Marquette. So Marquette snuck in as my 16 seed. We'll talk more about them in a little bit.
Yeah, so my 9 through 16, I got Arizona as the 9. I think they're also one of the hotter teams in all of college basketball right now. Right now, they are fighting with Houston to be that top dog in the Big 12, and that's extremely impressive coming from a first-year team who, played in the Pac-12 for years upon years, a league that was, never seen to play defense. We're just going to outscore you, but here they are. Here's Arizona playing, great on both sides of the ball.
Right. I
My
will say
10
fighting with Houston and Iowa State in there as well.
Yeah.
I will, just throw them in there. Yeah, but continue.
My 10, I'm giving you respect. I got your Sparty. I got Sparty. They had a tough stretch, but I'm not looking too deep into that because, you had to go out to LA and you were out there for a week. A lot of teams have struggled with that. I'm not looking too deep in that. You had a great win on Saturday without Jeremy Fears. You came back from down double digits in the first half to win by double digits.
Yeah.
That was a very good win. I'm back on the Michigan State. I think we're going to be just fine. My 11 is Iowa State. They got back one of their better players. I'm not even going to try to botch his name. I'm not even going to try to do it. But no, they're a team. They're 6-4 in quad one. They are healthy. Whenever they're healthy, they are one of the hardest teams to beat. I think without
Momcilovic.
Momcilovic. Without Momcilovic, I want to say they were 3-9. I think without him or something like that. But I mean, or not 3-9. That's not even possible. They don't have any losses.
Yeah.
No, not 3-9.
Probably,
but either way,
probably 3. I mean, I believe since he went out, what game did he go out? Did he go out the West Virginia game?
I believe so.
If he went out the West Virginia game, they obviously lost against West Virginia, and then they went 3-3 over the next 6 games after that without him. So they did lose. I mean, you lost 3 straight. You lost 3 straight without him. So that's the important part. Yeah. But no, I mean, I think getting him back. This is as of today, right? So I think that's a big reason why Iowa State is a 3 seed because this is as of today. And I think that as of today, as of today, Iowa State's a 3 seed. If I'm looking forward and I'm looking at teams in the future, Iowa State is probably going to jump right a couple teams ahead of them, in my opinion. Maybe they jump Purdue. Maybe they even jump Houston. I don't know about that one, right? But I think that Iowa
Yeah.
State, looking forward, they're going to be a very, very difficult team come tournament time.
I could not agree more. I
Yeah.
mean, especially at full strength, they were one of the best teams in college basketball, and I think they'll get right back to that. Now I have for my 12, I have St. John's. We already talked about that. They haven't had the quad one opportunities yet, but those are to come, and they could easily prove me wrong, and then that's when they jump.
Yep.
My 13 through 16, I got 13 Texas Tech. They're 9 in the net, 6-3 right now in quad one. They're playing a really good brand of basketball right now. They're another team in the Big 12 that it took a little bit to catch speed, get their feet under them, but here they go, and they're going. 14, I got Kentucky. 7-6 right now in quad one. They got some really, really good wins. I'm not too worried about them. They're another team that's got to get healthy. They get healthy, I think they'll be right back into that 3-4 seed line. 15, I got Marquette. I think, they hit a little rough patch here, but I think they're going to bounce back. I think they'll be fine. I think they'll finish top 3 in the Big East, and they'll make a run to at least the semis in the Big East tournament. I think they'll probably be a 4 or 5 seed. And then my last seed, I got Michigan right now. I don't know, I really like the duo that Michigan has with Wolf and Golden. I think they're studs. When you can play two bigs and one of
Yeah.
them can dribble and shoot the way that Wolf does, it's really, really scary. And I mean, they're 5-3 in quad one, and they're 18 in the net, so they're teetering towards that 4, 5, 6. But I wouldn't be surprised if they were the 16th seed on Saturday when we watch the reveal.
Yeah, I think obviously between now and Saturday, they play Purdue, right? So
Yeah,
they could either be they could either be like the 13, you go beat Purdue, or we
yeah,
could not see them if they lose to them in bad fashion again. My only thing about Michigan is they average around 15 turnovers a game, which to
yeah,
me is very, very scary. And it's not like you have one guy that's really just struggling to take care of the ball. I look at your guys that are playing the most minutes, and you're averaging 2, 3, 2, 1, 2 turnovers. Everybody's turning the ball over here.
yep,
And so that's the one thing that's really concerning for me. Obviously, I'm a Michigan State fan, so obviously I'm not going to have Michigan too high up on my board here. But no, I like what you're doing there. My 13 was also Texas Tech, my 14 was also Kentucky, my 16 was Marquette. There we were 15. So I think we're very, very similar there. In Marquette, they, I believe, force the most turnovers in the nation, and they turn it over the fewest in the nation. So I'm looking at a team that, for the future, come March Madness time, when we talk about the turnover margin all the time,
yep,
right? And it's just like when you talk about like the NFL playoffs, right? Or you talk about any sort of the college football playoff, any sort of playoff atmosphere. When you turn the ball over, if you're going to give up possessions and give the other team possessions in a micromanaged game like the playoffs, like March Madness is, it makes it so much more difficult to win those games. On the flip side, if you can give yourself more possessions and take away possessions from the other team, like what Marquette does,
yep.
then it's a real positive sign come March Madness time.
Yeah, and you look at Marquette's remaining schedule. It's really not that difficult, and I think
No.
that's probably going to be something that benefits a lot of these Big East teams because you look at they have DePaul tomorrow, then they have Seton Hall at Villanova, Providence at Georgetown, and then they end the year with two of their tougher games at UConn and then home against St. John's, which very well could end up become a very, very big game for St. John's to win the outright title.
Yep. Yeah, but I look at the next 4 or 5 games. You have at Villanova, right? I don't think Villanova's playing the best basketball. I think they're very, very Eric Dixon reliant.
Yep.
And I think that
Yep.
Marquette is a team that has the bodies and the ability to not shut them down, but force them to turn the ball over and hold them to 20, right? And holding Eric Dixon to 20, you can say, oh, he still got 20 on you. They're not going to score another 45, 50 without him on Marquette's defense, I don't think. So, and then, yeah, you look at that, the other 4, DePaul, Seton Hall, Providence, Georgetown, feel comfortable about all 4 of those. So
Yep.
realistically, you're looking at, pending any slip ups, a 2-game season here to really elevate your stock come Selection Sunday, and then obviously the tournament. So yeah, no, very high on Marquette as well. Kentucky's a team to shift the focus here, Kentucky's a team that's been weird to me because I think that they're a lot more talented, they're a lot more experienced than what they've shown. But I do think that they're still kind of just working out some funks with you have a new head coach, right? Jackson Robinson's the only player on your roster that's played for Mark Pope before.
Yep.
And you bring in all these new transfers, you get some very good early season success, right? Which is great. But I'm going to sit here and say that, like, when you have the early season success, like beating Duke, right? And then you come in, okay, now you're losing to Bama at home, right? In a game that was back and forth. You have the blowout loss to Ohio State earlier in the year, right? But you have other losses in here. The one to Arkansas one hurts, but it's like, okay, look, that's Coach Cal coming back to the Rupp Arena. There's so much drama, so many antics going into that. Let's not read too deep into that, right? So I think that what this Kentucky team has, I don't think they have a resume to be ranked as a top 3 seed, right? I mean, you're 7-6. You have 6 losses in quad 1. Now it's a ton of games in quad 1, but you're 7-7 in quads 1 and 2, right? That's not a resume that necessarily is, yes, put me as a 1, 2, or 3. But what you do have is the ability that when it comes March Madness time, if I'm picking teams to upset somebody, when it's a 4 playing a 1 seed, if there's a 4 seed I don't want to play, it's the team that's average age of the roster is 21 point whatever, 22 years old, and you have a guy like Lamont Butler who's played a national championship game before, right? That's the team that I don't want to play against. So, I mean, this Kentucky team resume doesn't necessarily fit yet, but I do think come March Madness time, they're going to be really, really good.
Yeah, this Kentucky team has obviously a few glaring holes. One of those being the fact that they put up 84 points a game, but they give up 83 points a game now in conference play. And they just don't play defense. They don't play defense, and I think we saw that when they played, however many weeks ago that was, last week when they played Ole Miss, and we saw that, and they gave up 98 points and scored 84.
Yeah. Yep.
That's a problem. That is a huge problem. Yes, they beat the crap out of South Carolina on Saturday, but South Carolina, who cares? I think Kentucky's biggest thing is they just need to somehow, some way, figure out how to play a little bit of defense, start rebounding the ball better, and you get healthy. You get both your point guards back in Kirk Kriisa and Lamont Butler, and then you get an Andrew Carr who's playing, and he's playing free, he's healthy. I think you'll go back to the team we saw earlier in the beginning of the year. We won't have to worry about them, and they'll probably make a run to the Elite Eight. And that's when you could possibly see them getting that Final Four, knocking somebody off. But, I mean, when I heard last week that Andrew Carr is getting shot up before the game, so his lower back muscles aren't tensing up, I'm like, all right, we got a problem. We got 3 core guys, 3 veterans. 2 of them aren't playing, and the one's playing with a lower back issue.
He's an old man. That's the problem.
Yeah, like that's a bit of an issue. But no, I think Mark Pope's a great coach. I think this team's got enough dogs in the fight to where they should really be able to make some noise come March.
Yep. No, I completely agree. And my final comment here about Kentucky is that the situation in which you'd see a 1 seed if you're a 4, right, is in that Sweet 16, in which if you played on Sunday, you're not playing again until Friday. So you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 4 days of practice there to prep for a game, right? What we saw Mark Pope do in 30 seconds of prep on how to defend Cooper Flag with the game on the line was very impressive, right? He's going to spin back to his right hand, does it. They get turnover, game over. So I think that Mark Pope is a very, very talented coach, and that comes into play so much when you see that 4-day preparation time, and you can start to come into you really start to get deep into the weeds of the prep, and you see that I think that the dominant coaches prevail a lot more in those situations. But no, those are our top 16 seeds there. So we have, I mean, a lot of similarities, right? Some differences, right? I have St. John's quite a bit higher than you do. Clearly, I am very high on them. And then you have Michigan in there, and then I don't. And then I had Memphis in there as well. We didn't talk too much about them, but we'll get to them. I think plenty more here in the future. But this is getting a little long-winded, so we'll go ahead and wrap this up. This has been the Sports Geeks podcast, talking hoops, as always with Nick, and we'll be back every single week with more college hoops episodes. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.